Over the course of the year, I've uploaded 9 Nuzlocke videos, ranging from regular playthroughs, to challenge runs, to Nuzlockes of spin-off games, to Nuzlockes of games of my own design. Some of them were great successes, but others, I wish I could have done things differently. I wake up in Aquacore Town from Pokemon X. I've been here before, but this time when I choose my starter, it's not Chespin, but instead a randomly generated starter that I used this year, Scarlet the Fuecoco. I first met Scarlet as a Skeledirge after saving her from Killer Croc in Gotham City, but this will be my first time using her as a Fuecoco. I head to Route 2 where my encounter is randomly generated from a list of all Nuzlocke encounters I had this year. The more I used a Pokemon this year, the more likely it is to appear, so it's no surprise that my Route 2 encounter is Noya the Noibat, a Pokemon I've used twice before, first as a starter in my Batman Nuzlocke, and then as a late game encounter in Violet. Finally, in the Santaloon Forest, I catch Bailey the Bagon, another encounter from Violet who perished tragically in the battle against Aerie. And now I've arrived at the Santaloon Gym, Bug Leader Viola. Last time I was here, I lost my Panseer Patrick against Vivillon's infestation, and I'm determined not to lose a Pokemon to Viola again. Noya starts out against Surskit, taking it out quickly with Gusts. Before Vivillon has the chance to trap her in with an infestation, I switch into Scarlet. She goes for Embers as Vivillon goes for Tackles, and things get close at the end, but Scarlet is able to finish the battle, and I've made it through Gym 1 without any losses. But just then, I'm jolted into a different reality. I find myself in the Galar region on Route 5, just between the first and second gyms. I lost 3 Pokemon to Nessa's Dreadnought when I played through Shield before, and I hope I won't repeat that mistake. On Route 5, I catch Lucas the Riolu, an encounter that I've actually had 3 times this year, but that I've never really used in battle. Then when I arrive in Hulbury, I catch Emperor the Timple. Emperor was an amazing teammate of mine in Shield before, fighting until the final battle with Leon. With my new small team of 5, I head into Nessa's gym. Bailey starts out against Goldeen, and they take turns damaging each other with headbutts and horn attacks. However, Bailey soon has to switch out, and Emperor finishes it off. Arrokuda comes in next, but Emperor can't stay in after just one bite. Noya comes out instead, starting out with a super effective Absorb, but the following turn, Noya is flinched by a bite from Arrokuda. I've had problems with this Arrokuda flinching my team before, and I don't want that to happen again. I switch into Scarlet, causing Arrokuda to switch to Aqua Jets. I use the Yawn to make Arrokuda drowsy in case Scarlet doesn't have what it takes to knock Arrokuda out, but on the following turn, Scarlet does enough damage with a round to get the KO. That just leaves the Dreadnought, and I need to make a sacrifice to get Lucas out safely. I send out Noya, letting her go down to a Razor Shell. Lucas the Riolu comes in though, survives a Razor Shell, and counters with, well, Counter, which knocks the Dreadnought out in a single hit. I've made it through Nessa's gym with only 1 casualty, improving upon my last attempt. But just then, I abruptly find myself in Eterna City, having just defeated the second gym in Brilliant Diamond. I know I'm on my way to fight Maylene, but I get a bunch of encounters before I arrive in Veilstone. First is Balloon Guy the Mime Jr. on Route 206, a Pokemon I've encountered in 3 different games, who was even on my team at times in both X and Brilliant Diamond. Next is Warren the Beautifly in Wayward Cave, followed by Roger the Lycanroc from Mount Coronet. I've used Roger on my team once before after receiving him as a gift from the Commissioner in my Batman Nuzlocke. On Route 208, I catch Misty the Mischievous, another returning team member from Gotham City, who also played a crucial role in Violet in my battle against Larry's normal gym. In Hearthome City, I get Sandy the Crocorock, who held a prime spot on my teams at times in White 2, Violet, and my own game, Dimensions. On Route 209, I catch Brody the Bronzor, a Pokemon that I've managed to encounter 4 times in different games, but have never used on my team because of how slow it is. In the Lost Tower, I catch Mark the Murkrow. In the Solacean Ruins, I get Mantu the Primeape. And on Route 10, I find Tanner the Tangrowth, all of which I met for the first time in Pokepark. Finally is Penelope the Pumpkaboo on Route 215, returning from my Pokemon X Nuzlocke. With that long list of new encounters, I head into Maylene's gym. She took 2 Pokemon from me earlier this year, and I don't want to lose that many Pokemon to her again. I start out with Misty against Meditite. Since Meditite can't hit Ghost Pokemon, I know she's going to switch into Machoke, so I switch into Balloon Guy. My Little Mime Jr. outspeeds with a powerful Psybeam, but Machoke hits with Bulldoze the following turn, lowering Balloon Guy's speed. This gives Machoke the opportunity to hit Balloon Guy with a follow-up knockoff before a final Psybeam takes it out. Meditite returns to the field, so Misty does as well, eradicating it with a single super effective Hex. Last comes the real problem, Lucario. Misty fires off a Confuse Ray as Lucario goes for Bulk Up. She does a bit of damage with Psybeam before being hit by a critical hit Metal Claw that raises Lucario's attack even more. I need a sacrifice again, so this time I let Penelope go down to Lucario. This allows me to bring in Man2 though, who has a super effective fighting move of his own with Cross Chop, which misses. That's okay because he has another chance to miss. Man2 goes down and no progress has been made against this powered up Lucario. Scarlet comes in, survives a Drain Punch, then goes for Yawn. I swap into Misty on an immune Drain Punch, then Lucario falls asleep. Scarlet comes back in then and does massive damage with Incinerate, bringing Lucario into the red. But on the following turn, Lucario wakes up and KOs my starter with a Drain Punch. Fortunately, Lucario's health is low enough now that Misty can come in and outspeed with the Hex for the victory. I lost 3 Pokemon this battle, which was actually worse than in my Brilliant Diamond playthrough, but I take comfort in the thought that I played well this time, and that I could have saved 2 more Pokemon if Man2 hadn't missed both Cross Chops. But before I really have time to process the last battle, I'm whisked away yet again to Pokemon Shield. This is the beginning of what will be the Ghost-type Gauntlet, as the next 3 gym battles I'll have to face are all primarily Ghost users. First though, I get some encounters in the wild area. I begin with Ash the Pikachu at the Motostoke Riverbank, who I used as a starter in my Pokepark Nuzlocke, as well as a short-lived encounter in my game Dimensions. Bridgefield brings me Melody the Meditite, Giant's Mirror gives me Princeton the Pachirisu, and in the Lake of Outrage I get Gabriel the Haunter, all of which appeared in both Pokepark and Brilliant Diamond. Murray the Mudsdale comes to me in the Stony Wilderness, and I recently got to use him for the first time in Violet, where he was especially helpful against Atticus's Poison Base. In the Dusty Bowl, I get Pal the Infernape, who is my starter in both Brilliant Diamond and my Stocks Nuzlocke, and I'm hoping I can take Pal to the champion title this time around. Giant's Cap brings me Fred the Frillish, originally from White 2, then in Hammerlock Hills I get my goat, Skippy the Go-Goat, a champion team member from my Violet Nuzlocke. Finally is Oliver the Onyx, a Pokemon that I used in Dimensions, and that was a final team member as a Steelix in both my Stocks video and Brilliant Diamond, but I sadly lost Oliver during my Shield Tank lock to Alistair. Which is the very battle we're going up against right now. Sandy starts out against Yamask, doing great damage with Crunch and taking very little damage back from Hex. Mimikyu comes out and Sandy breaks his disguise as Mimikyu goes for Hone Claws. Now that its attack is boosted, Sandy can take a lot of damage from Slash, so I maneuver into Gabriel, who is immune to the attack. Mimikyu nearly kills Haunter with a Shadow Sneak, then Haunter does great damage in return with Hex. Then, Haunter wins the priority battle, outspeeding Mimikyu's Shadow Sneak and getting the KO with Sucker Punch. Cursula comes out next, and I move into Roger on an Ancient Power. He outspeeds Cursula, and just 2 bites later, Roger takes it down. Finally is Gengar, but thankfully it can't G-Max in this format, and I send in Murray, who can survive when Gengar uses Hexes, and take it out with a single high horsepower. In the blink of an eye, I'm taken back to Brilliant Diamond on the road to Ghost-type user Fantina. I do get some more encounters first though. I get Holly the Jumpluff on Route 212, then Lincoln the Litwick on Route 213. Steve the Knacklestack comes from Valor Lakefront, and Butler the Indeedee from the Ruin Maniac's Cave. At Lake Valor, I catch Sharon the Sharpedo, who is most useful on my team in my own game, Pokemon Dimensions. Gary the Gligar, now found on Route 214, was a starter in my Batman Nuzlocke, as well as a Pokepark Haunted Zone encounter. And finally, in Celestic Town, I get Marvin the Ampharos, who I first met in the Pokepark's Flower Zone. Fantina is the second member of the Ghost-type Gauntlet, starting out with Drifblim. Roger first hits it with a powerful Rock Tomb, but gets burned from a Will-O-Wisp, cutting his attack. Still, he has the strength to finish Drifblim off with Bite. Miss Maggie's comes in next, so Roger goes for a super effective Bite that gets a crit and a flinch. With luck on his side, Roger goes for another Bite that gets the flinch again, meaning he can finish Miss Maggie's off without taking any more damage. Finally is Gengar, and I first sent in Sandy, but after getting hit by a Confuse Ray, then hitting herself in confusion, I swap into Murray to get his second Gengar kill with high horsepower. In an instant, I'm transported to the Pokepark. I'm now going for my 6th badge, so it only makes sense that I end up in the 6th zone of the Pokepark, the Haunted Zone. The last time I faced Dusknoir and his team, they killed both my Gliscor and my Frostlass. I won't lose anyone to Dusknoir again, as I head into the final battle of the Ghost-type Gauntlet. Sandy, now a Crocodile, starts out against Dusknoir, and even though she gets burned, it only takes 2 crunches to knock it out. Scizor comes out next, but I brought Pal just for this purpose, who knocks it out with Flame Wheel. Gengar comes in next, but I can't use my reliable Ground-type counter because Pokepark is a Gen 4 game, meaning this Gengar has Levitate, not Cursed Body. I switch into Sharon instead, who narrowly survives 2 Shadow Balls, then gets an OHKO of her own with Crunch. Finally is Mismagius, so I move into Mark, who ends the battle with a super effective critical hit Assurance. With that, I have successfully maneuvered through the Ghost-type Gauntlet without any casualties. But there's no time to rest, as I'm transported to White 2 just before the 7th gym. Just before the gym leader, who cost me my entire White 2 run, Drayden. I do get a bunch of encounters though before I have to take him and his terrifying team on. I get Zelda the Zebstrika in Chargestone Cave, then Brutus the Bibarel on Route 7. In Celestial Tower, I catch Gina the Girafarig, then on Reversal Mountain, I get Seymour the Shiftry. Beverly the Floatzel comes from the Strange House, and Liam the Liepard is found in Undella Town. Undella Bay has an exciting encounter with Nicholas the Thievel, my starter from my Tank Lock run that ended up soloing a bunch of fights for me in that Nuzlocke. Then on Route 13, I get Stevie the Staraptor, a Pokemon I used for a bit in Brilliant Diamond before her life was cut short by Maylene's Lucario. Route 12 gives me Bella the Roserade, an underrated Pokemon who was a final team member of mine in Brilliant Diamond. On the Village Bridge, I catch Emma the Emolga, and I get Swanee the Leavanny on Route 11, both of which made their debuts in this game White 2. Finally though, on Route 9, I get an absolute staple of my Nuzlockes this year, Marty the Azumarill. When I was playing through White 2, my team was in shambles, and I saw one path to victory against Drayden that involved Garbodor and Azumarill, but I never got to bring him to Drayden as he tragically fell to a gym trainer. When I started my subsequent Nuzlocke in X, I decided to use the same nicknames for all Pokemon, and Marty was my first repeat from White 2, making me especially excited to see him. This fondness grew, and Marty went on to be an encounter of mine in 5 total games, 3 of which were on final teams. And this time, we have something that we didn't have in White 2. The Fairy type. Balloon Guy begins against Druddigon, setting up a Reflect, only for Druddigon to get a critical hit with Crunch. Balloon Guy gets some great damage in with Dazzling Gleam, but follow-up Crunch takes down my Mr. Mime. Roger comes in with a Crunch of his own to finish the job. Up next is Flygon, so I move into Murray. Flygon's Earth powers wear Murray down, and 2 heavy slams are just barely not enough to get the job done. I switch into Marty, who is immune to Flygon's Dragon Tail now, and take it out with Double Edge. Lastly comes Haxorus, and expecting a slash, I move into Gengar. Gabriel gets in solid damage with Shadow Ball, triggering Haxorus' Citrus Berry, but Haxorus strikes back with a critical hit Assurance that gets an OHKO. I'm honestly not sure that crit mattered anyway. Roger comes in with a Rock Tomb, lowering Haxorus' speed, then dodges a Dragon Tail. That gives Roger the opportunity to follow up with a Rock Slide that takes Haxorus out, winning us our 7th gym badge. It's back-to-back Dragon users though, as I find myself once again in Pokemon Shield, ready to go against Raihan. This will be a tough team to beat in a double battle format. Marty and Sharon start off against Flygon and Gigalith, the latter of which sets up the Sandstorm with Sandstream. Flygon starts out with a Thunder Punch against Sharon, but she retaliates with a 4 times effective Ice Fang for the KO. Marty sets up Rain Dance to take back control of the weather, and Gigalith sets up a Stealth Rock. When Sandaconda comes in, I switch out Sharon for Skippy. Sandaconda goes for Glare, Gigalith hits Skippy 4 times with Rock Blast, then Marty doesn't move because of Paralysis. That wasn't a great turn. Skippy Horn leeches the Sandaconda, doing solid damage, but triggering its Sand Spit, starting up the Sandstorm again. Sandaconda and Gigalith double into Skippy, and he doesn't have the strength to survive both hits, going down to Rock Blast. and Marty goes ahead and misses Hydro Pump. Great! Emperor uses a Drain Punch that does way less than I would have liked, and Sandaconda and Gigalith double into Marty this time. Oh my gosh! Gigalith hit 5 times? That was so close. And Marty doesn't move again. I switch out Marty for Bella as Emperor goes for Bubble Beam into Gigalith. Sandaconda hits Emperor with Earth Power, then Gigalith Rock Blast into Bella, hitting 4 times, one of which is a crit, to take Bella out. What is this luck? I bring Sharon back in to Liquidation the Sandaconda, and Emperor Bubble Beams the Gigalith, both finally getting the KO. That now makes the battle a 2v1 as Raihan sends out his Duraludon. I switch into Melody, taking a Breaking Swipe, then Emperor goes for Drain Punch. On the following turn, my team members survive one more Breaking Swipe, then they double into Duraludon with super effective fighting moves to finish the battle. I have gotten my 8th gym badge and avenged all of my team members who have fallen to these gym leaders this year, but the run isn't over, of course. I'm transported to Gotham City. I've just defeated Scarecrow, where I get my final encounter of the whole run, Marilyn the Marowak. I'm about to go against Two-Face, one of the elite criminals of Gotham, who killed Roger the Lycanroc in my first showdown against him. I don't intend to lose a team member to this criminal again. Now that I've defeated the gym leaders and I'm on to the Elite Four, I've gotten access to the Move Relearner to round out my movesets, and I built a team for the Pokemon League, giving each Pokemon an item to use as well. On to the first battle against Two-Face. Two-Face begins with Darmanitan, who is no match for a Stab, Huge Power boosted Aqua Tail. Morpeko is next, so I switch into Pal on a Spark, and he takes it out with a super effective Close Combat. Next up is my friend Malamar, who threatens Pal with Psycho Cut. I switch into Swanee, who can take it out with a single 4 times effective X-Scissor. Next out is Goldengo, and Murray switches in on a resisted Power Gem. He takes a Shadow Ball, then rips through Goldengo's health with an Earthquake. Finally is Girafarig, whose best move against Murray is a Psychic, so I can switch into Sharon for free. Now I get to use her item, a Mega Stone, to wrap up this first battle with a super effective Crunch. Next up, I find myself investing in the stock market. In February, when things were going especially bad. I admit my stock market Nuzlocke was one of my more bizarre videos, and during the second Elite Four member of that run, Nessa, I lost my starter Pal the Infernape. It's time to get vengeance against Nessa once again. Marty starts out against Golisopod, triggering its emergency exit after just 2 Play Roughs. Pelipper comes in next, and Marty gets in a bit of damage with Play Rough, but then I decide I want to preserve his health for later, so I switch into Zelda, who is clearly a phenomenal counter here with Discharge. Barrascuda comes in next, threatening with Drill Run, so I use Murray as a pivot to get Sharon in on a Liquidation. She Mega Evolves, barely survives a critical hit from Drill Run, then gets a much needed KO with Crunch. Golisopod returns, and Marty comes back in to finish the job. That brings in Dreadnought, and Marty tanks a Rock Tomb, then retaliates with a super effective Super Power. Even with the huge power boost, it's not enough to take out the defensive beast that is Dreadnought. I once again use Murray as a pivot to bait a Water-type move, then bring in Swanee. She's able to clean out the last 2 of Nessa's Pokemon with super effective Leaf Blades. Even though he wasn't in battle, it was great to beat Nessa with Pal on the team, getting his revenge by cheering on his teammates from the sidelines. In my Nuzlocke of my own game, Pokemon Dimensions, my run was ended by the 3rd Elite Four member, Ghost-type user Rome. Wow, I'm sensing a real trend with the type I tend to struggle with. This vengeance isn't just for a couple of fallen Pokemon now, it's for every Pokemon I fought alongside in my Dimensions Nuzlocke. Swanee starts out against Trevenant, getting in an X-Scissor before it disappears with Phantom Force. I take advantage of the turn I can't hit Trevenant by going for Swords Dance. Then, once it reappears, Swanee can take Trevenant out with another X-Scissor. Frostlass is next, so I switch into Pal on a Blizzard, but the attack misses anyway. Pal survives a Shadow Ball, then Oko's Frostlass with a Flare Blitz. Up next is Mecha Gengar, so I send out Murray, my classic Gengar counter. Just before I can go for Earthquake though, Gengar goes for Destiny Bond. Murray tears through Gengar's health, but as Gengar goes down, so does my Mudsdale. This is a devastating first loss of the Elite Four. Sharon comes in, Mega Evolves herself, and crunches her way to victory with 2 more one-hit KOs. but it's with a heavy heart that the team moves on without Murray. With the Dimensions run avenged, I'm transported back to the Stocks Nuzlocke, which was cut short by the 4th Elite Four member, Drake. By the time I got to Drake in the Stocks Nuzlocke, my team was in shambles, but this time around, I have a much stronger force with the exact combination to take out Drake's team. First up is Altaria, so Sharon Mega Evolves and takes it out in an instant with a 4 times effective Ice Fang. Kingdra comes in next, so Marty comes in on an immune Dragon Pulse. It only takes 2 play roughs for Marty to take it out. I keep Marty in against Salamence, and though he takes a lot of damage from Thunderfang, he gets some good damage in himself with play rough. I send in Pal to bait a super effective Zen Headbutt, but then switch into Sharon, who gets to come in safely for free. And from there, the rest of Drake's Pokemon are 4 times weak to Ice Fang, so it's an easy sweep for my Mega Sharpedo. Now there's only one thing left to do: fight the champion. I actually lost 2 Nuzlockes this year to a champion fight. The harder battle was definitely against Cynthia in Brilliant Diamond, as my team just couldn't handle that tricky matchup. But that's actually not the team that I most feel I need to get revenge against. There was another run that was just 1 turn away from victory before I lost: Champion Leon in Pokemon Shield. Since there is a break between the Elite Four and Champion in Shield, I can swap in Emperor to replace Murray on my final team. Emperor was the foundation of my final battle against Leon in my Shield tank lock, coming just 1 turn or 1 critical hit away from taking home the trophy, so I'm hoping this battle is the justice he deserves. Pal starts out against Aegislash, destroying it with a Flare Blitz. Seismitoad comes out, and I switch in a Swanee on a resisted Earthquake. Just 1 of her Leaf Blades wipes Seismitoad out. Against Cinderace, I move into Emperor, taking a resisted Pyro Ball. Emperor narrowly survives a couple of acrobatics to defeat Cinderace with a combo of Muddy Water and Hyper Voice. Dragapult is next, and in order to give my team the best chance at victory against Leon's 2 Dragon types, I let Emperor go down to a Shadow Ball. This battle is for you, Emperor. Marty comes in to take a Thunderbolt from Dragapult, then use Play Rough, and miss. That's okay, he takes another Thunderbolt from Dragapult, then uses Play Rough, and misses. Well, in order to save this, I now need a safe switch into Sharon, so I let Marty go down to another Thunderbolt. He kind of missed a lot of attacks this run, like kind of an absurd percentage, but he's still a champion to me. Sharon takes a fierce Thunderbolt from Dragapult and retaliates with Ice Fang, but doesn't quite get the kill. On the following turn, I send in Zelda, who gets powered up by Thunderbolt thanks to her Lightning Rod. Then she discharges to get the KO. Next is Haxorus, and Zelda gets some damage in with Discharge before going down to an Earthquake. Sharon outspeeds with an Ice Fang to take down Haxorus, then Charizard comes in, and 1 liquidation later, Sharon has secured us the final KO and the victory against Champion Leon. The ultimate 2025 MRDux Gaming Nuzlocke is complete. Thank you to everyone who has supported the channel so far this year. It has been a really fun and rewarding journey. I've learned so much over this last year about making videos and Nuzlocking, and it's so great to share the things that I have so much fun with. I have some ideas for the channel next year that will be bigger in scale than anything I've done so far this year, so please consider subscribing to see what comes next for MRDux Gaming. See you in 2026.